My family has run a fish store for generations. It's a small shop in the countryside, tucked away in a local shopping district. Our customers are mostly regulars. We hardly see any new faces. Even so, it's always been my favorite place. By the time I was old enough to remember, it was my parents running the shop. My grandparents used to work in the store when they were still lively, or so I heard. We would always have customers coming with a smile, telling us,
"The fish here is truly delicious."
I was just a child back then and couldn't contribute much, but I still felt a sense of joy whenever our shop was praised. Naturally, I, being the only son, was expected to take over the shop. It seemed like that was what my dad had in mind, and although my mom told me,
"Do what you love, Paul,"
it felt like she too was hoping that I would take over. Many of my peers also grew up in the shopping district. Some would say I wouldn't want to inherit my family's business, but I had no problem accepting a life in the fishmonger trade. From my high school days, I would work in the shop and study commerce in college, learning the various aspects of running a business from my dad. I initially proposed working in the shop straight out of high school, but upon realizing that running a business might be harder than it seems, I opted for higher education, urged on by my mom. Balancing study and training were hard, and before I knew it, my 4 years of college were over. About a year after I started working as a fishmonger, my childhood friend from grade school, Lemon, who runs a clothing store in the same shopping district, suggested,
"Let's have reunion for the first time in a while."
He used to help in his family store like me, but now he works in a famous brand store in Paris. He was home on a long vacation, and we had just reunited after a long time. A reunion? I asked. If it happens, it would be the first time in about 4 years since our coming-of-age ceremony. Lemon replied,
"Yay, we've all been out in the world for a year now. Don't you want to get together?"
Indeed, I hadn't seen most of my classmates since they had moved away from our hometown. That might be a good idea, I agreed, to which Lemon seemed delighted. Lemon, who had become quite sophisticated after moving to Paris, looked different on the outside, but when I saw his innocent side, I was relieved that he hadn't changed much from our childhood. About 6 months after this conversation, at the beginning of the new year, our reunion took place. The venue was a restaurant in the busiest part of town, about a 30-minute train ride from our local shopping district. It was a rare occasion for me to go out with friends for drinks in town, so I was looking forward to it. Working at home, there was no clear line between my time off and work, so my mind was occupied with the store year-round. My parents were happy to see me stretch my wings and readily sent me off. The meeting place was in front of the reserved restaurant. Seeing its unexpectedly stylish exterior, I became a bit anxious. I had assumed it was a casual bar, so I had shown up in a hoodie and jeans. Perhaps I should have worn a shirt at least. While I was worrying about this, my classmates began to gather.
"Long time no see, Paul."
"You haven't changed a bit. I knew it was you right away." It's reassuring.
The classmates who greeted me this way all looked much more sophisticated than I remembered. They had all left our hometown to live in various places like Paris or other regional cities around here. "Really? You guys look so grown up," I said, to which they laughingly replied,
"What are you, a relative's uncle?"
The atmosphere reminded me of our childhood, and I felt reassured that they hadn't changed on the inside. There were about 20 of us who gathered that day. Inside the restaurant, Lemon took the lead as the organizer. He was always reliable, and it felt like he had become even more polished as an adult. As the first round of drinks was being served and we were about to toast, the door to our private room opened with a creak. A flashy-looking woman entered. I certainly didn't recognize her and thought, did she get the wrong room? But then she said,
"Sorry, the traffic was bad and I got delayed."
Lemon responded with a smile.
"Marie, it's fine. We were just about to toast."
I took a good look at her face, trying not to be rude, but I still didn't recognize her. I had one person in mind when I heard the name Marie, but I couldn't believe it was the same person. While we were waiting for her to order her drink, she took one look at the menu and muttered,
"There's nothing but cheap stuff here, huh?"
Lemon laughed it off, but I couldn't help but think, she's unpleasant. I suspect the others felt the same way. A somewhat awkward atmosphere seemed to hang in the air. After ordering some liquor I'd never heard of, we finally managed to toast, but that was far from the end of Marie's swims.
The chair is too hard. I'm tired. The air is dry. I'd like the air conditioner off. The food isn't very good. The air inside the restaurant is dry. It's bad for my skin.
I wasn't bothered by any of those things, but I guess everyone has different sensitivities. Still, I couldn't stand her voicing their complaints loudly. Lemon apparently had a connection with her in Paris and handled her complaints with an accustomed smile. But there seemed to be many classmates who didn't think highly of her. I still couldn't remember who she was until I heard,
That Marie, she's apparently had plastic surgery.
That's when I finally realized who she was.
Did we have a girl like that? So it's really that Marie.
Like my surprise friends, I couldn't believe it at first. That Marie was the daughter of the bakery owner in the same shopping district as Lemon and me. It's not like you eat cake every day, so their shop was particularly struggling among the shops in the district, and I remember being worried about her parents. Sure enough, when we moved on to middle school, Marie's shop was gone, and they had moved somewhere else. I liked the cakes from Marie's house, and we were often in the same class, so I felt a bit sad. The Marie of that time was a far cry from being selfish. She was a quiet and calm girl. Moreover, her face was what you would call modest, so even if she had changed with makeup, it was a transformation that didn't seem like the same person.
Remember when Marie moved in middle school? Her mom remarried the president of a major company and moved to Paris.
One of my friends explained. I was surprised to hear that. I had assumed they moved because the shop had gone out of business.
After her mother's remarriage, her stepfather seems to spoil Marie a lot. Apparently, he provides all the money for her.
Hearing that, I finally understood the reason behind Marie's flashy appearance. Even so, it was surprising how much her behavior had changed. And then,
Are you talking about me? That's unpleasant.
Marie, who had somehow made her way to us, spoke up. "This is bad," was my immediate thought. Although I had been frustrated with Marie's behavior that day, I realized it wasn't nice to talk behind someone's back as an adult. So I was about to apologize, but Marie spoke up first.
Speaking of others is fine, but Paul, was it? What about yourself? You're dressed just as plainly as before.
She was clearly looking for a fight. Well, in this case, I might have been the one who started it. I didn't immediately think of retorting. I was also at fault, and I hadn't paid much attention to my clothes. After seeing everyone today, I thought maybe I should buy something online. I responded. I thought that if I didn't try to debate, it would end there. But that assumption was naive.
Are you still living in that rundown shopping district?
The fact that she was speaking ill of the shopping district where she herself used to live was becoming less and less amusing. It's fine if she doesn't like it, but I can't stand her belittling it. Yes, I am. When I responded, Marie said,
Didn't you have a tiny fish shop? It's amazing that it's still in business. It must be miserable, dirty, and it probably smells.
At this point, I reached my limit. I couldn't stand being in the same space with her, let alone laughing about it. You're free to think what you want, but don't insult what others cherish. That's all I said to Marie before I grabbed my stuff and stood up. My classmates and Lemon tried to stop me, but I didn't want to worsen the atmosphere anymore. But Marie,
Running away? That's right. A po fishmonger like you can't beat me.
she scoffed. But it's not because I'm likely to lose that I'm leaving. I was frustrated and wanted to convey that. If being rich in the city means forgetting precious memories and people's feelings, I'd rather be po for the rest of my life. It was a parting shot on my part too, but I said just that and left the restaurant. When we were kids, Marie also loved the shopping district, and we often went around the stores together. Thinking about that made everything feel even more regrettable. As I left the store, a luxury car was parked right in front of me. Maybe it's waiting for Marie to finish her drink. I don't understand the things rich people do, I thought to myself as I tried to pass by.
Paul.
A familiar voice came from the car. Puzzled, I looked towards the voice. and there was my mom. "What are you doing?" "Of course, we don't have the money to buy a car like that." As I was confused, the man who got out of the driver's seat said,
"Mr. Paul, I'm here to pick you up."
and opened the car door. My mom explained the odd situation to me. It turns out she knew someone who was the CEO of a major food and beverage company, and they wanted to contract with our family for sourcing fish for a restaurant. They had a meeting about it that day, and because the venue was close to my reunion venue, they came to pick me up for a surprise. So that's what's happening. You surprised me. I was certainly surprised by the contract itself, but the shock of my parents suddenly appearing in a luxury car was more shocking, and I couldn't react much. Nevertheless, it was really good news. The CEO acquaintance offering a good job opportunity. It's a world apart from someone like her who belittles her classmates even though she's rich too, I thought to myself. After that, we started sourcing high-quality fish different from usual for the restaurant, proposing dishes that go well with the fish. The work increased and we were very busy, but it was very rewarding, and I couldn't thank my mom's acquaintance enough. A few months passed, and the day before the restaurant's opening, our family was invited to a pre-opening tasting event. We took the TGV to Paris for the first time in a while. This time I was careful to dress properly in a suit so as not to be out of place. On the train, I said to my mom, "Thank you, Mom. I was a bit nervous about running the shop by myself from now on. But thanks to you, I've realized that there are new possibilities. I'm usually too embarrassed to say such things, but on such an important day, I want to express my gratitude." Then my mom made a surprising statement.
I should be the one saying thanks. The whole thing was brought up thanks to you.
I had no idea what she meant by that, so I asked her, "What do you mean? Why?"
Oh, didn't I tell you? The acquaintance I mentioned is your classmate's mother. We've been good friends since elementary school because we're both businesswomen.
That was news to me. But Lemon's family still has a store in the shopping district, and it's a clothing store, so it has nothing to do with food and beverages, and there's no one else we're close with. While I was trying to figure it out, my mom gave a shocking answer.
Remember Marie, who moved away in middle school? It seems she recommended us to her mom because she liked our fish.
I couldn't keep up at all. If it weren't for that reunion, I wouldn't have been so confused. The Marie I knew was a calm and kind girl who would do something like that. But the Marie I met at the reunion had forgotten all that and started belittling my shop. I couldn't understand why Marie was doing the exact opposite of what I expected. And before I could sort things out, we had arrived at the restaurant. When we arrived at the restaurant, a table was set up and beautifully arranged for us.
I'm so excited to be in such a fancy place. We don't get to come to places like this often.
Yeah, my parents seemed really happy. Of course, we thought we would continue to run our small business in that shopping district forever. Of course, we love the shopping district, but it was still a pleasure to have our fish used in such a high-end restaurant.
Thank you for coming today.
As I heard that voice and turned around, there were Marie's mom and Marie, still dressed ostentatiously. She looked a bit, quite awkward, perhaps because of the reunion. I felt the same way. While our parents were chatting happily, we were silent, not knowing what to say. But if what my mom said is true, I have to thank Marie. But I think there's no point in being silent and stubborn. "Let's talk over there," I suggested to Marie, proposing that we step away from our parents to have a conversation. As soon as we entered the terrace, I expressed my honest feelings. I was really surprised to hear that you recommended my shop after belittling it at the reunion. What was that all about? Marie looked a bit awkward, and without making eye contact with me, she said,
I always thought your shop's fish was delicious. That's how I truly felt. I used to order it every year for the new year.
"Huh, is that so?" I hadn't noticed since handling shipments wasn't part of my job. But Marie had always liked our fish since we were young. When she lived in the neighborhood, she used to come with her mom almost every day to buy it. It made me happy to know that her feelings had continued even when I wasn't aware of them. But then, why? If that was the case, she could have told me properly at the reunion, and we wouldn't have fought. Before I could ask, Marie responded angrily.
I've liked it all along, but hearing you gossiping behind my back was shocking.
Like it? About the fish? Right? I was confused by her choice of words, but I remembered my own wrongdoing and apologized. Yeah, I'm sorry. Even though I didn't know you went so far as to recommend my shop, I was truly in the wrong. I bowed my head and said so, but Marie didn't respond right away. Curious about her reaction, I looked up and her expression had softened.
It's okay. What you told me was right.
She was probably referring to the harsh words I had said.
Having my face and being poor as a complex. I've had those since childhood. I was even bullied because of them. That's why I think I got carried away when I had the freedom to change that. When you said you've changed, even your heart, I realized it.
Marie said with a slightly sad tone, and I felt a glimpse of the Marie I knew from back then. Talking today made me reconsider things. Marie has changed, but there are also things that haven't changed, like loving that shopping district deep down and not being able to be straightforward. When I said that, Marie blushed slightly and then smiled, saying,
Thank you.
Seeing that smile, I realized that even if someone's appearance changes, the atmosphere of their smile remains the same.
Paul, your obliviousness hasn't changed.
Marie said that just before we returned to our seats from the terrace. I didn't quite understand the meaning at that moment, but I would come to understand it a few years later. Now, Marie and I are the ones protecting that fish store together.